Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. We cross over to the other end of the world. We're going to Pakistan now, and it is exactly 9:53 a.m. We're going to be joined by OCAR South Africa Ambassador Asif Bulbulia, and he's going to talk to us about the 10th Global Waqf Conference, which took place in Punjab in Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum to you, Asif. Welcome to the program, and I'm absolutely delighted to be talking with you, very especially regarding the title of your presentation. We'll get to that in a minute or two. In fact, I think I need the entire day to talk about that, but be that as it may, the 10th Annual Waqf Conference, what did you make of it? Is it the first time you've attended?
Assalamu alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Judy. Yes, alhamdulillah. We recently concluded the Waqf conference yesterday. And alhamdulillah, it has been a wonderful experience. It was my first time attending, my first time in Pakistan. And yeah, it's been a phenomenal experience so far.
Alhamdulillah. How come you've landed up a job with OCAR South Africa? Let me understand your background, please. Obviously, you have a lot to give to the organization. So let's understand, who is Asif Bulbulia?
Shukran. So, alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful to OCAR South Africa for affording me the opportunity to come to Pakistan. I come to the organization with a background in education. My background is a Bachelor of Education. And then last year, I completed a BA honors in the study of Islam. And part of my research project for my honors degree was a focus on land as waqf and niyaz as a decolonial case study. And that was, my entry point with OCAR South Africa. I think I was able to, I've been in contact with Uncle Zainul Abidin Kadi, who is the CEO of OCAR. And I think over the last year, we've been in communication and in contact. And when he informed me about the Global Waqf Conference, I proposed to him that, I think the Niyaz Fund research would be worth presenting at this global conference. And he agreed, and alhamdulillah, I've been very fortunate in having that opportunity.
All right, we'll get to your presentation in a minute or two. Very quickly, give us an overview of the presentations of other role players, international Waqf role players. How different was their presentations to yours? And what have you learned from the conference?
So a lot of the Global Waqf Conference is its 10th year this year, and has attracted, stakeholders across different sectors who are in some ways involved in Waqf. So the financial, like Islamic finance industry, for example, researchers, academics, people who have over the course of their careers, dedicated themselves to establishing and developing OCAF in their respective countries. So I think in terms of differences between our presentations, I would say that there was quite a strong focus on Islamic finance, which isn't necessarily the background that I was coming to the conference with. But also really interesting presentations around the use of blockchain technology as a means of new trajectories and pathways in developing Waqf and in developing OCAF. So yeah, very interesting input that was received from people from Malaysia, from Nigeria. We had presentations from people in Niger and Turkey, and so it was in many ways a global conference in terms of the variety of presentations that were given.
Look, I know that Zainul Kaji and his team are doing amazing work regarding Waqf in South Africa. Alhamdulillah for that. But how do we compare with our global partners, with people all around the world, regarding Waqf and Islamic finance, of course?
I think, based on my own personal interactions with OCAF South Africa and the opportunities that I've had to attend OCAF events. I think that there's a lot of really meaningful discursive, discourse development work that has been undertaken through OCAF South Africa. In September, OCAF hosted a conference on Islamic civilization in Southern Africa, which I think really brought together scholars from our region, scholars from our part of the world, to highlight and to shed light on the unique expressions of Islam that emerged from our context. And I think the deeper impact that that has had in shaping our ways of being Muslim in our community. And so I think that there was a deep level of, I mean, when I reflect on the kind of the work of the ways in which OCAF South Africa has been using workers, I think that in addition to the really important community development initiatives that it has supported over the course of its tenure, there's also a deep level of grounding in our history. So I mean, when you look at the books that have been produced, the things that have been published, the knowledge that OCAF is very much behind developing and supporting, there has definitely been, there's some really unique expressions that have come out, and I really appreciate the dynamism of the way that OCAF is used in our context. So yeah, I think in terms of that aspect of the way that OCAF has approached its work at projects, there's a lot to reflect on in that sense.
Okay, let's get to your paper, your presentation. It's entitled Land as Waqf and Mias Farm / Waterfall City, a decolonial case study, which engages with the question of how Waqf has been interpreted and applied to the land of Mias Farm in Johannesburg, South Africa. How such interpretations may be understood in light of decolonial land discourses. Now, don't think, apart from the new generation, but I don't think there's a person, a South African Muslim, who is not aware of Mias Farm and the role they played in promoting religion. In South Africa, in the greater Johannesburg area. I'm going back to my parents' time as well. And I think the Miao family played a pivotal role in shaping our futures, in in grounding us in our interest in religion and promoting and making dawah. I think that overrides everything. Why did why was this? Why did you research this? What was the interest? And let's talk to us about the findings. I was very, very pleasantly surprised when I heard that the Mias Farm land, has been given as waqf. It just astounds me. Alhamdulillah. So talk to us about all of those issues.
So I think that part of the challenge that I kind of had to confront when I was growing up in Joburg was the question around the disparities that we were witnessing. I grew up in Mayfair and Portsmouth, and I think in many ways there was a real, you come face to face with a lot of like really harsh realities in such an environment. And at the same time, I was fortunate enough to go to a private school in Joburg, and I think the movement between two worlds, it led me to question the extent to which the kind of discourses of Islam that I was being exposed to growing up were actually responsive to that movement. And to what extent, are we actually engaging more deeply with this sort of inequality that we confronted with in our society? Why is it that we never hear football about, exploitation or about inequality? And I think that over time, my focus and my interest actually started to gravitate towards issues of land. Because I understand, that land is, to this day, continues to be one of the central markers through which wealth inequality in our society is measured. Um, and in thinking about a piece of land that has held a lot of historical significance within our own context, within our own communities, I gravitated towards Miyasam because I think that I recall going to Ijtima at Miyasam, you really hear, like you said, it's something that's very much a part of our collective imagination, and what are the connotations that are associated with Miyasam. Um, and so I think there was a part of me that wanted to unpack that a little bit more deeply. And in the process of kind of working through the question of the land, one of the ideas that kind of came out in the reading was that, oh, by the way, this land is regarded as Wakaf land.
Wow.
And so that was some of that became an entry point for deeper investigation. And like you said, this is what the focus of the paper is the question of A, how has Wakif been interpreted and applied to the land? And B, how might these interpretations be understood or critiqued in some way in light of the colonial land discourses, which have tried to draw attention not only to the effect that colonialism had in the kind of the conquest of land, but also in the conditioning of deeply extractive relationships with land. So land becomes just another commodity to be exploited, another kind of category of assets as a source of wealth. And when a lot of indigenous decolonial scholars have tried to critique that and challenge that, to say that, I suppose we could look at it from as Muslims, right? Like land isn't just another form of wealth. In many ways, it's the realm of the ayah. It's our means of getting to know Allah because, land as belonging to Allah. It's a much deeper, we depending on how we think about our theology, we could have a much more deeper relationship with land. And those are some of the things that I tried to unpack in the paper.
Okay, I just want to say a very big thank you to you, Selina Safat. I think that's how we say your surname. You are watching all the way from Malawi. Thank you indeed. I do hope that you're finding the discussions interesting. Back to you, Asif. And look, one of the reasons why I was blown away by your presentation or the title of your presentation, I should imagine, as I've indicated, we could sit here all day and not still cover everything contained in there, is the fact that this was central to our collective history. Is the fact that this is absolutely prime property in the Midrand area. And yet, alhamdulillah, this family, the Mia family, have actually given over this land as waqf. How do you move forward? What is going to happen with this land? Is there going to be development as far as Awqaf South Africa is concerned? Do they sell it off? Do they build religious institutes there? What's going to, I mean, this is just not like being handed over hundreds of millions of rands, for example. This is land, and land is a very precious commodity. One of the political issues in our country is all about redistribution of land. And where and how does that tie in with obviously your presentation?
So it's an interesting question and one that I haven't fully thought out, to be quite honest. Because again, the land today is being used for what is known as waterfall city, right? I think if you are familiar with Midrand, if you have traveled, just past that area, you would see this massive mixed-use development that has been developed. It includes the Mall of Africa, waterfall estates, a number of residential and retirement properties, and so for for the better part of the next few years, we can imagine that land will continue to be developed as the waterfall develops. So yeah, I think that the directive around how that land is going to be approached and what it is going to be used for, that prerogative will probably come from the family and from the waterfall management company. But I think that it's estimated that by the time Waqf City is completed, by their own estimates, they expect it to be worth about 148 billion rand, which is quite a lot. I mean, to this day, I think it's already worth about 36 billion, but by the time it's completed, it's going to be worth about 148 billion. But I think one of the points that I do want to raise, and I do raise it in the paper as well, is that one of the critiques of Waterfall City is this notion of what they describe as a cradle to grave city. And so what some of the town planners who have examined this for have argued is that the way in which the city complex is developing, it may produce a situation where a child could be born at the hospital that is in the school. They could go to any one of the two schools that is made available there. There's retail offices, potential job opportunities, um, and then a retirement village and a cemetery. So you could literally spend your entire life within this development without ever having to really be exposed to anything beyond this. And I think this is where the more critical aspect of work is what I wanted to focus on. It's to say what are the theological implications of this way of being or of this way of engaging and approaching land and approaching water. In as much as yes, Woodfall may have certain amenities, again, who has access to those amenities? What are in the context of profound wealth and income inequality? Again, the questions of access and accessibility are going to be integral to our understanding. So I think those are some of the themes that I tried to unpack, and inshallah, I would be happy to share the paper with you. But yes, these are some of these are questions that would obviously, I think, require more time to engage.
Is the Mia family still involved, even though they've handed over the land to Waqf South Africa? That's my understanding, obviously, and this is how Waqf would be involved in making certain that you know, from generation to generation, there will be funds or land or whatever it is available for the promotion of Muslims, the culture, the religion, and communities. How involved is the Mia family with this project?
So I think I should maybe intervene at this point to say that the family hasn't given the land to Okaf Sadat or dedicated it to Okaf. It was dedicated as Wakif in the 1940s. And so it's been Wakif long before Okaf Sadat, even
Ah,
came into.
okay, okay.
Um,
So
and
who
and
can I
so
just interject here? Who's managed it since 1940? Was it the family themselves? And are they in a partnership now with OCAF to help the management of this Waqf?
no, so Okaf hasn't had any real association with the family. I think it's
Okay,
important for us to clarify
all
this.
right.
The family, so the land primarily was run and managed by the Godfather Islamic Institute, which, as you mentioned, has played a very historically significant role in the institutionalization of Islam in South Africa. But yeah, I think it's important for me to clarify that Al doesn't necessarily have a relationship with the family per se, and these are very much like this isn't necessarily. I'm not speaking on behalf of Al but I'm speaking in my own capacity as a researcher.
Okay.
And so I think that
Okay, we seem to have lost Asif there. I don't think we will reconnect because we have run out of time. I think he made a very, very salient point of correction there regarding the land of Mia's farm, which has been, the family has given over the land for Waqf purposes. I misunderstood. I thought the land was handed over to OCAR South Africa to manage it, but Asif has clarified that point. I think this is something that needs a further discussion So inshallah, we will try and take it up sometime in the future. But it was wonderful talking with Asif Bulbulia at the 10th Annual Waqf Conference in Pakistan. That brings us to the end of the show today. Thank you indeed for your time. And inshallah, I do hope that you've enjoyed the show with me. Till tomorrow morning at the same time, as always, take care on the roads. Assalamu alaikum. And of course, a big shout out to our production team, Nasri Naidu, and the controller behind all those fancy buttons and plugs, etc., is Qolani. Thank you, guys. Till tomorrow, as always, Salamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Ali.